Let's chat about England's win over the Wallabies now then. Goody, another win over the Wallabies, but how do you rate their performance?
Easy.
Yeah, 8 from 8. And let's be honest, I think the Wallabies will be pretty frustrated with themselves. England are, like Eddie says, we've got some new players coming in a bit of a transition in terms of trying to actually change the way we play. And this weekend will be the litmus test for us in terms of where that's at, because you've got to play a different way to beat South Africa. And, Marcus Smith at 10, I thought he played pretty well. I still think you just got to let him lead everything at 10. So I still feel, and it'll be interesting this weekend because the news is that Owen Farrell's definitely out, and so he'll have full control. But it still felt like there was this leadership play, and I said it on the pod last week around let Marcus Smith run the attack, let him be the fulcrum, let him be the entertainer, the guy that drives everything, and that will get the best out of him because that's how he's been so successful at Quins. Whereas if Farrell was trying to control things, and you saw Farrell stepping up at first receiver a lot.
Yeah, I was going to ask that, Goody. Was I right in picking up that a lot of the time Marcus Smith was second receiver, and it was probably him who actually managed to get the width on the plays? Is that me, or was that a few times?
No, it did happen a few times, and the way a lot of it plays now is it often does go. You see some of the plays that end up going out the back. You go a 9-12, and then you've got a short line. The 10's out the back, and then you've got a couple of layers of attack outside that. Jim, you're just fucking head down pushing them all, mate. But I mean, there are some times when that's interchangeable, and you want the ball player, the better ball player, which is Marcus Smith, being that second guy. But it just seems sometimes that where Marcus Smith wants to go and dominate, and as he does for Quins, it just felt like it was not quite as fluid as it could be. And it's going to happen because you've got a new combination playing together. He's never played with Ben Youngs, apart from against Tonga last week. He's never played with Owen Farrell at 12. I can't wait for us this weekend to see. You're bound to see Slade and Tuolangi back in the centres with Marcus Smith at 10, and you'll probably go Malins on one wing or Radwan on one wing, Johnny May on the other. I'm probably going to say Malins will start on the wing because the aerial threat's coming. But look at the ball he put Freddie Stewart through for the first try. I mean, my God, what a finish that was from Freddie Stewart as well. Don't worry about looking at Manu Tuolangi. He probably saw Curtly Beale opposite him, and I reckon Curtly Beale had a few big nights out in London. He played like it anyway, to be fair to Curtly. So, yeah, I mean, listen, England, were they at their best? No. There were some bright sparks in there. Australia, I thought the discipline was abysmal. If it wasn't for Nick White half the time, it would have been way more comfy. I think England were always in control, weren't they, without having control on the scoreboard. And it's another work on. We're not just going to hit the ground running when Eddie Jones has coached the team in a certain way, and there's for so long as he has this kicking game, and now he's flipped it, brought in some new players, and trying to change the way we play. There's going to be a few teething problems. And while you want to see England attack and play as well as Ireland did, we've got to do something different this weekend, because if we play the way we played, and I hate to say this, if we play the way we played against Australia, I can't see us beating South Africa this weekend.
What sort of tactics do you think they're going to change for this weekend?
I know it's a throwaway comment, isn't it? If you watch how South Africa beat Scotland, who are one of the best teams in the world, just tighten up, big fella.
Scotland. What do you mean tighten up? If England tighten up and try and play the way South Africa play, we'll get hosed.
You laugh about England having to tighten up. Scotland at the weekend, I think, showed, we can get onto the Scotland game, where the only space in the South African defensive line, the only space is in the outside channel.
Exactly.
However you get there, through hook, through Cook, or through a bin bag being kicked off Finn Russell's boot, you need to get into that space. So, and I don't know. I've not seen any. We saw a bit of the Lions. We saw a bit of Scotland doing it. I suppose, having looked at the weekend, the only team that could do it is Ireland, off the back of seeing how they played at the weekend. I just don't know. For me, Marcus Smith this weekend, it's not sink or swim, but if he can unlock South Africa, that is him. He's in. He is in there. If he can get that ball, and part of doing that, Andrew, and again, I'm stealing your thunder because this is your knowledge inside out. You've got to have the bollocks to do it, haven't you? You've got to have the bollocks to throw that ball, take it to the line, and there's a chance. could be intercepting the life out of that ball, because you've got to go for it. And we saw Finn do it with a couple of kicks, and people are booing and almost laughing a little bit at some of them. But that's my 2 pence worth on how England will try. I don't think they will try to beat South Africa.
Yeah, you've got to take the risk at times, as we saw. The Lions didn't take any risks until that third test, but also they're controlled risks. So, Mapimpi's coming. Dressy Creel will pop up on the other wing. The bottom line is England have got to prevent South Africa from getting driving lineouts, scrums. Because I think we're going to struggle at scrum time, and that's unless Marler can miraculously come out of isolation for 10 days on Friday, the day before the test, and be sprightly and ready to go. He probably will. He'll probably pick Marler and starting with Sinclair. But then, we didn't dominate at scrum time at the weekend, did we? And James Slipper was playing out of position at tight head. So you just think of the fundamentals of the South African game are line-out drive, scrums, kicking game. You need probably Malins on the wing to defuse the bombs alongside Freddie Ayres-Stewart. Johnny May the chicken running from all over the shop. But you need to do it in a controlled way, but finding those edges with phase plays with 2 lines of attack, they can be unpicked. Let's not forget Australia did them twice. So it's definitely a big thing around risk reward. It's definitely Marcus Smith has got the spuds to do it. Let me tell you, it's whether Eddie Jones lets him do it.
That's something I was going to ask you about, Goody, because Eddie Jones is renowned for his patterns and his game plan, and England being so rigid in their game plan. And then you've got Marcus Smith, who almost has his own game plan. Where's the balance in that mixture? Yeah,
well, here's the thing around it. So look at the World Cup final. Last time we played South Africa World Cup final, South Africa dominated us. And if we didn't really chance our arm a little bit, and it's easy to say it on a podcast here about chancing your arm, but as a 10, when you see the pictures that South Africa give you defensively, you've got to use a short kicking game to try and take a little bit of that line speed out. You've got to use a crossfield kicking game. You've got to win the aerial battle, which, with the likes of Johnny May and Freddie Stewart and Malins potentially on the wing, you can. You need to drag Mapimpi out and you kind of need to show one picture to them, a running picture. And the Finn Russell one that they scored the try off, they're showing a running picture. The defence tightens up and flies in. The space is there for that crossfield kick that almost went backwards. But it's having the nuts to actually execute or go for it, and then the execution's got to be spot on as well. And that's why they're the best players in the world at playing at international rugby. I'll never forget, I played at Twickenham against South Africa, and Brian Habana was Mapimpi, and I've tried to put a little kick through to where I think there's loads of space, and the fucker got charged down. So
it's gone straight in the bread basket.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. And it was it plays with your mind, right, as a 10. But if there's anyone that's on the par with someone that can unlock a defence like that, there's 2 probably in the world that can do it, and that's Finn Russell and Marcus Smith at the minute. And I don't mean that lightly, because they're guys that have got that daring in them. You actually need you've got to have the confidence to look for it, find it, and then the ability to execute however that kick comes across, or however that miracle ball, pull Mapimpi out the line. 2 waves of attack where you've got a frontline option. You saw the try that Freddie Stewart scored. That's a 2-phase play where you've got a ball out the back to him, and then he's got 3 options. So he's got another out the back, he's got a short line, and he's got a face ball across the front. So, and he picks the right.
You ain't scoring that. You ain't scoring that against South Africa.
No, but you did not the way that Freddie Stewart did, because they'll close that short space down. It's then pick the option out the back and have everyone's lines. To beat the South Africans, you've got to have unbelievable running lines, outside shoulders, into space for other people, and the depth because someone's going to close on your ribs, and they might be in next week.